I recently wrote a story entitled ChatGPT may be eroding critical thinking skills, according to a new MIT study. Natalia, you are the main author of this study. Thank you so much for joining me to talk about your research. So let me ask sort of the biggest question that is on a lot of people's minds was, does your study provide evidence that ChatGPT is making us dumber?
No, 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 no. I'm so happy you asked, and you can see my excitement, I guess. We have like a huge FAQ on website right now. The words like dumb, brain rot. So all of those words are pure clickbait because we in our study never use this vocabulary and we do not show this. And we actually cannot show this with even this setup. It's just impossible. What we have shown is specifically what happens, neural connectivity, essay outputs, scoring, interviews. We put it all into perspective, and there are definitely a lot of interesting things happening.
Can you briefly describe the study?
We invited 54 participants who were all students from Greater Boston University, and we invited them to come in person to the lab. And we asked them to do one very specific task, which is essay writing. And we divided them in 3 groups. So first group was tasked to only use ChatGPT. So they couldn't use anything else, just ChatGPT to write their essay. Second, search engine without AI functionality. So basically you can do like a classic OG search engine. And then the third one, we call it tools free tools, which is no tools. And we also call it in the paper brain only because of that. So you only could have used your brain to write your essay.
The research began with 3 essay writing sessions where students were able to pick writing prompts they were interested in.
So what we have observed during their first 3 sessions is that their essays were pretty homogeneous for their LLM group. So basically what it means in layman terms is they were very similar. Wording that was used, for example, a lot of specific words that were used, like names and persons, different entities, would have definitely observed this.
The researchers studied neural activity using a non-invasive brain imaging technique called EEG.
And then, of course, when we looked at neural connectivity, we also saw that there is actually a change when you use tools like search engine or LLM versus when you don't use any tools at all, which is in itself actually should not be very surprising, right? And a lot of studies before us actually explored this phenomena even earlier, not with LLMs, but with the tools we already had, like GPS or Google, etc. So what we saw is that there is definitely some scaling down happening when you are moving from no tools, meaning like you're only using your brain, up to all the way to the LLM. So, you have pretty high neural connectivity happening brain only, intermediate for search, and then definitely lower for the LLM.
The researchers found that of the 3 groups, the ChatGPT users had the lowest brain engagement and consistently underperformed at neural, linguistic, and behavioral levels. Over the course of several months, the ChatGPT users got lazier with each subsequent essay, often resorting to copy and paste. After the 3rd session, researchers re-invited participants back for a 4th time. About a third of the original 54 participated, so it was a smaller sample size. But the students were reassigned to different groups. For instance, the students that wrote with their brain only were given ChatGPT, and the students that had used ChatGPT were now not allowed to use it.
And additionally, we actually let the subjects pick up from the essays that were not new to them, but actually the essays they had already written about. So something you have already written from those previous 3 sessions. So that was an experiment.
The results of this switch showed something surprising. The people who had been in the brain-only sessions for the first 3 essays performed even higher with ChatGPT.
So we actually, in the end, being, again, very careful with any speculations, do say the timing of introduction might be extremely interesting and potentially important to explore in any future studies.
Can you tell me a little bit about that and why that might be actually potentially optimistic for, LLM usage?
What happens, and it might be actually sounding also very natural for everyone, you used your brain to execute on the task once, 2 times, 3 times, and the 4th time, right, you now have additional tool to use on that very same task. So basically, hey, now that you have the tool, you have potentially more opportunities to ask the right questions, because guess what? You spent your time thinking about it without a tool. I honestly feel like that in our society we are losing a bit this opportunity. Think before you speak, or like think before you repost, or think before you post, right? So that might be just about it. Hey, do it yourself first, right? And then use the tool, and the tool can potentially maybe augment your output, your product, your use case, whatever you are going for, right?
Does your study show evidence that ChatGPT may erode critical thinking?
It doesn't show this directly, right? We really do not want to claim strong, oh, critical thinking is gone here, because again, limitations of the study. It's a preprint, and where we have very few participants in a rather specific task, essay writing. It's literally in the title. However, what I do want to mention that we, of course, looked what other researchers before us reported on. We needed to put it in some perspective and connect some dots. And again, this is what we found with our study. But again, there are other papers that talk that in some use cases, it might actually support some of that. Like even in our case, we say, hey, timing might be important, right? It is really, to be seen and to be tested. More data is needed.
Yeah, so given the limitations of your study, why did you feel it was so important to put it out before, preprint?
With this unprecedented speed of release of these tools in all aspects of our lives, education, workspace, etc., in 4 to 12 months, right, where reviews usually take place, some actually couldn't take up to 2 years. It might be just late. We will end up with some, GPT kindergarten, some other things without proper data. So why do we need to move very fast and break things so fast in our own backyard when let's just actually explore this, right? Let's have more data. And super secret, it doesn't even need to be brain data, right? Let's just test it. Hey, without, does it make a difference? Does it make a change? And more importantly, include all opinions that would matter. In this case, teachers, educators, caretakers. If you're talking about children, where I think it would be so critical, because we all know those brains are developing. So why do we need to rush these deployments, right? Let's maybe pause, evaluate, and there might be excellent use cases. This technology is not going anywhere.